don't want to talk about me being a sweaty guy in this heat?
Neil, there's no news there. That's not news. Okay, that's just how it always is.
You're right. I'm always kind of sweaty. Be
You're
it playing Street Fighter or sleeping, frankly.
Yeah, no, and everything in between. Like, that's the two extremes of Neil's life. Playing Street Fighter on one end and sleeping on the other.
And yet I sweat in both of these situations. What do I do?
You get your glands checked. Is that a thing? Can you get glands checked?
That sounds scary.
Yeah, I don't know, like, can you get a transplant on glands? I don't think that's a thing. You might just have to live with it.
Well,
stock up on paper towel.
Yeah, that's what I gotta do. Just start wiping myself off throughout the day with paper towels.
Yep, it's the only solution.
Oh god, that sounds fucking so gross. Okay.
You do what you gotta do. That's all I'm saying.
Look, you're right. You said we shouldn't mess around. So hi, everybody. Welcome to the Audio Games Podcast. It is, what is it, June? End of June?
We're at the end of June here.
How did this happen so fast?
There's a lot going on, and we were in it. We weren't thinking about talking about it. We were just kind of in it.
That's true. My name is Neil, by the way.
And I'm Matt, also, by the way.
Should probably finish the intro.
Yeah, we'll get around to it. But yeah, lots been going on. Lots to talk about here.
Yes.
Where to start? Where do we start? As far as my notes go back, is Summer Game Fest.
Yeah, month of June happened, and right at the very beginning of June, there was that PlayStation thing, which we did talk about before the last podcast.
We did talk about that.
And then immediately following was, hey, everyone else has got to get in here and tell us a little bit about what's happening. Which did, begin with the Summer Game Fest stream.
Listen, we have so much ground to cover here, Neil. I think that it's important that we distinguish ourselves from all the other wonderful news sources for such things and acknowledge that there's nothing new that we can really add except our own takes, right?
Yeah, fair.
We should just stick to the things that interested us or the things that stood out to us. We can't just go down the list.
True.
So, Summer Game Fest, the first presentation of the show.
Well, okay. Before we jump into it.
Oh, okay.
Like 2 days before it happened, our boy Jeffrey Keelingston, I guess I can call him that, was like out there being like, hey everybody, this is not going to be an amazing Summer Game Fest presentation. Like, be ready. So I'm just wondering, what was your overall on it? Just like 1 to 10, good, bad.
For Summer Game Fest itself, I'll give it like a generous 6. Okay.
Okay.
And it's not that there wasn't stuff that was good there, but so much of it was just chasing coattails.
That's fair.
AAA games are so fucking samey, man. Everybody's trying to be a hero shooter or a battle royale or a massive open world, and they want photorealistic graphics, like that new hero shooter. I forgot what it was called. God,
the one from PlayStation or the Marvel one?
The PlayStation one, but there's also a Marvel one.
I want to say Concord.
Yeah, Concord. Like, it looks like just motion captured people.
Yeah,
with like shit thrown over them. Like there's no sense of artistry to it except they just put textures on people. But anyway, in terms of Summer Game Fest, what stood out to you, Neil? Let's talk about it.
All right, so the big thing about Summer Game Fest that I actually thought was like really cool came from 2 smaller publishers. One of them being Outer Sloth, which is Inner Sloth coming out and saying, hey, y'all loved Among Us, so we got rich and we want to try to help fund other indie games, which is great because a lot of bigger publishers aren't doing that right now.
Yeah, they were so awkward, but boy, as much as I don't really care that much about Among Us, it's really good of them to like turn back to the community and be like, we want to help you now. That's so admirable. And I know I probably sound sarcastic saying that, but I mean it. It is like, and they showed a lot of interesting things.
Yeah.
And it was really
And
important for me to see them after watching so many AAA trailers.
fair. And the other one was doing a similar thing, but Blumhouse, which is like the horror movie company, kind of known
Yeah,
for they're known for casting a wide net of like cheaper projects. They don't necessarily have high budgets, but
yeah.
the ones that hit end up having really high returns. And it looks like they're trying to bring that mentality into the gaming space and still focusing on horror, which is where we got to see quite a few games, one of which I think is coming out pretty soon. It was oh
Oh
fuck.
man, Neil,
Something the Spotlight. I can't remember the
Neil,
first
I
word.
can't. I want to go on a rant right now. I don't know if we have time for that.
Okay, go on a quickie.
Okay,
Mini rant.
okay, so okay, you're talking about low budget. Low budget is important because it forces the people who are making things to be creative to work around their constraints. Okay, and this is so like I was talking with someone about Hideo Kojima. Hideo Kojima was his best work was done when he was working with constraints. Okay, when
Sure.
he was working on PlayStation 2, when he was working on Game Boy Advance, he made all these really interesting creative things. And now that like tools have kind of caught up to him, he's no longer like working in constraints, and the stuff that he's making is less charming. Case in point, before he got his own studio, he was bringing in like independent new people to work on stuff, and now he's bringing in like Hollywood actors because he has access to that. It's not that he never wanted to do that, but it's because he has access to that that he's doing it, and it's just less charming. Just saying. I want to get that off my chest. I've been thinking about it a lot. Anyway, back to Summer Game Fest.
Back to Summer Game Fest.
Hideo Kojima didn't show anything at Summer Game Fest.
No, kind of a weird one. Normally him and Jeff are right toe and toe.
Yeah, which is to say that he probably doesn't have anything new to show. Because if he did, he'd give it to
Yeah,
he'd give it to Keeley.
fair.
Ain't no question.
But those two announcements of just, hey, new people coming into the publishing space, specifically from an indie side, really were the big highlights of Summer Game Fest for me.
Okay.
There were a couple other things that came out of it, but that was like the main focus of like, this is a cool, good thing at this event.
Okay, well, I guess I'm coming from it from a far more negative perspective here. So let me try and like end on a high note here and start with the stuff that really annoyed me.
Mhm.
Metaphor, the Atlas game that's supposed to be like a spiritual successor to Persona,
Mhm.
they hyped it up like it was going to be like this weird, crazy new thing. It's literally just an RPG.
Yeah,
That was very
it just looks
disappointing
like
to me.
Persona.
They were talking about like archetypes and stuff. It's like, oh, we're going to use these crazy like psychological words to describe what's happening. They're just classes. It's just a word that they're using for classes. It was very disappointing. I thought they were gonna be really weird and experimental with it, and it's just a fucking RPG. What else? Oh, they spent a lot of time on Valorant coming to consoles. Like a weird amount of production value and time
Oh
from
wow.
that presentation went into Valorant. Not even like a new thing for Valorant. They're just saying, "Hey, it's coming to consoles."
I was so checked out on that part, I literally forgot it happened.
Yeah, and it was like a pretty good chunk of that presentation too. But the good thing is, okay, Wander Stop looked really cool. It is the game about what appears to be a character from a different game ending up in a cozy game, and they're like trying to come to terms with the fact that they're not in a place of violence, even though that's kind of in their nature.
Oh, yes,
So-
yes.
That looked very interesting and cool, and I'm sure that it's going to take a dark turn of some sort.
That was from
Um,
the Stanley Parable people too, wasn't it?
It was. That's
Yeah.
correct.
Yeah.
They made it very clear that it was from the Stanley Parable people. And you know, we saw a little bit more of Monster Hunter Wilds, and I was just as disappointed. I didn't feel like they really covered the scope. They're like, "Oh, look for the big cool monster that's going to be on the cover of the game," and I'm like, "Okay, I will." And then they showed it. I'm like, "Okay." Like, I mean, I'm not expecting big cool monsters. I'm not surprised by this. I still want to see the scope of this game, man.
Yeah, I think it showed better than that first one we got, but not by much.
I feel like if there wasn't that like stopping point of the last one, and they just showed me that one, I'd be like, oh, that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
But because they've already showed some stuff, and it's like a lot of it was recycled from that first reveal on the Sony State of Play, it's like, okay, well, great, keep working on it, because
Yeah.
clearly you
Yeah.
don't have more to show. But the other thing was Street Fighter 6, they got announcement for the new characters. That was cool. Really weird choices, okay?
Okay.
I'm not upset about it.
So this was going to be a piece we obviously had to talk about.
We did, yeah, we've been playing a little bit of Street Fighter.
We have. You got me back into it. I've actually played a bit more without you, in fact,
Hell yeah.
because you got me thinking about it again. But the announcement. I'm one of those people that's a little more on the this is very cool, but I'm disappointed side.
Ah, okay, all right.
And
Let me guess, you're waiting for that Dudley, waiting for that Makoto.
that's part of it, but really the first thing to say for everybody that doesn't know about the announcement is they announced, hey, season 2 is going to be these 4 characters. They told us everyone that's going to be in season 2, kind of like they did for season 1, which I do think is awesome. The thing is, 2 of them are SNK characters, which Street Fighter specifically has had a lot of crossover games, but never really in a mainline Street Fighter. You can kind of almost count like Akira coming to 5 from Rival Schools. But again, that's only an almost kinda.
Listen, Poison, Roland, fucking Cody. These are characters from Final Fight.
Yes. But even then, they're still Capcom characters. They're still explicitly saying, hey, these worlds are tied together.
Yeah.
It's a little more mushy, I guess, with those characters.
Well, here's the thing. A lot of the like big names in fighting games, they've been having like these like sit downs with each other, these little fireside chats. And I feel like the community as a whole is kind of like reaching like this omega point where so many of the people who are in charge of these big fighting game series are like becoming pretty close.
Mm-hmm.
You know? Like you see Harada talking about things. You see like the big wigs at Capcom talking about things. And I feel like this is a pretty natural thing when you consider that. I get that now we're having slots taken up by SNK characters, and that's kind of like a weird feeling. But they're not like hated characters. They're popular, and I'm pretty hype actually. I mean Terry. I feel like Terry's getting thrown in everything lately.
A little
Like,
bit.
well, yeah. But I'm very interested in. And then, you know, the characters that we're getting that aren't SNK representatives. I mean, Bipson's in there. No big surprise, Bipson's in there. Of course, Bipson's in there. He's gonna be in there. It's Street Fighter. But Elena, you know, I think Elena's a really good choice because they need to really redesign her because
True.
she was a terror in the last game she was in.
True. Very
and
true.
So they need to address that, and I think that they'll be very creative. And I think that the style of Street Fighter 6 we'll be able to see a lot of interesting things. I'm not convinced that there's only going to be 4 characters. I think there's going to be a surprise 5th character reveal.
For the season?
Yeah, I think that there will be.
I don't think so. I feel like they've been fairly clear that like their new strategy going forward is going to be tell you everything that's in the season so you can know what you're buying when you buy a season pass right off the bat.
Yeah, but I mean, the extra value is not going to hurt nobody.
That's fair. That's fair. And I want to be clear. The disappointment for me isn't, hey, they're bringing these characters in. It's more because there's only 4 characters, having literally 2 out of the 4 be guest characters when there's so many Street Fighter characters that a lot of people would love. I know, yes, some of my favorites are probably never coming back. That's fine. But it does feel a little odd to me. I would have personally preferred like Terry this time, May in season 3, and 3 more Street Fighter characters filling those out both times.
Yeah. I think like a good balance is like 1 guest character, 2 like traditional characters, 1 new character.
Yeah, that would have been really cool too.
But, you know, They're gonna do what they're gonna do. I'm not upset with it. I hope that they adapt these characters in a meaningful way for Street Fighter 6's setting. You know, that's the main thing for me.
Mm.
Because Street Fighter 6 has an identity in its art style, right? It has, like, a feel. And bringing these characters in, you cannot just, like, drag and drop them in, right? I want to see the Street Fighter 6 Terry. What does that look like? I want to see the Street Fighter 6 Mai. You know, they are mixing up a lot of the style here because it is about taking it to the streets.
I just want to go into world tour mode and fucking hang out with Mai, I guess.
I mean, I'd be very interested in seeing how that works, actually.
Because, like, I know all the DLCs so far have been integrated into the one-player portion of that game. I haven't touched it since then. I played the base one-player, but whatever.
Yeah, I
Weird shit.
hear there's some pretty interesting stuff with Akuma and your cell phone. Yeah. Anyway, we should move on. So Summer Game Fest.
Yeah.
Pretty meh. So I have my notes in order of presentation here. So the next one was on the same day. It was Day of the Devs, happening right after Summer Game Fest.
True.
Did you watch Day of the Devs?
I watched, like, the first half of it, but I did not manage to sit through a lot of it. Day of the Devs has always been a hard one for me because it's more PC-focused, which is awesome. It's indie-focused, which is awesome. Unfortunately, a lot of those games tend to be, like, survival crafting games or, like, just stuff that really doesn't appeal to me. Even though, yes, I'm a PC gamer and those kind of live on the PC because they're not good as console games as a rule.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
And you're not wrong. There was a showing of that. But the thing that stood out for me, because that's what we're focusing on, UFO 50.
Yeah, true.
Yay! That was actually very happy that they showed it and not only like did a pretty deep dive on it and gave a release date, which is September, sometime in September. This has been on my wish list since it was announced. Derek Yu, the guy who made Spelunky, he kind of headed this project. It's kind of like a kind of riff on Action 52, which was this very expensive game cartridge for the Nintendo Entertainment System that had 52 games on it, but they all kind of sucked. And so he's like, well, wouldn't it be fun if like I made one that was actually good? And so he worked with a bunch of other developers to make 50 games that are going to be a part of like this compilation where there's a narrative throughout where like all these games are made by this fictional company. And so there's kind of like this through point, like nothing like maybe blatant, but I'm not talking like Frog Fraction stuff, but I think that'll be interesting. So that's cool. And then after Day of the Devs, unless you have something else to say about Day of the Devs.
Nope.
Okay, Devolver Digital. Anything from Devolver Digital?
I missed the Devolver showing.
Okay.
I know there was a game that I wish listed from it though, and now I'm beating myself up that I can't remember what it was.
Was it Tenjutsu? Was it the animated trailer that was like 80s anime?
No. Did they show Possessors there?
I don't remember. I think maybe. I only have what's in my notes, Neil.
That's fair. It might have been Possessors, which just looked really fucking cool to me. And I think that was from that show.
Sure.
Fair.
Was there a PC game show?
Not that I recall, actually.
If there was, I don't remember. If there was, I don't remember.
I feel like it kind of got roped into Day of the Devs, so to speak.
Yeah, kind of that and Devolver Digital, because a lot of the indie stuff was kind of lumped into that. Not a bad thing, though. Okay, so Xbox. Happened after we have this separate presentation. Okay, I'll let you take the floor here. Anything about Xbox showing?
All right, here's the big thing about the Xbox showing.
Okay.
How excited are you for 2025? Because let me tell you, a lot more excited than you are for 2024 if this was the show you watched.
Okay. Well, I mean,
a good like 75% of what they showed, I feel like said 2025 on it. Maybe that's a little hyperbolic, but that was like my big takeaway. But they did have a few things that I did think looked pretty cool. First off, I think that I can't remember the beginning part of it, but Expedition 33. I know there was like some other part of the title,
Yeah,
which looked
Claire
like
Obscure Expedition 33, which is the
that was
dumbest
it.
name I've ever heard.
Yes.
And the environments looked cool.
Yeah, it looked really cool. It looks like a turn-based RPG, which is not something you tend to see out of a bigger budget thing like this anymore. There's a reason why Final Fantasy has moved away from turn-based. So that was kind of exciting to see as like a throwback.
Yeah.
South of Midnight, which they have shown a few times, but this time they showed us some actual gameplay instead of just a cutscene. Looks like, hey, do you like Kenna Bridge of Spirits? Because we're making a like gritty version of that.
For me, it was like, do you want to play Kenna Bridge of Spirits, but have it look like a Telltale game?
Oh, okay, yeah. With the way that they're doing shading and stuff, that fits.
And that's not a bad thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing.
That game looked like a solid, I would play this and probably enjoy it game.
Yeah, I mean, against the backdrop of all the other things that Xbox was showing, I thought that was kind of a breath of fresh air.
Totally.
So my main note that I have for the Xbox presentation, which is at the top, it's just my general note. It says, I can see how people get the impression that video games is all shooting and zombies after this presentation.
That's fair.
Because there was a lot of that. The things that kind of stood out to me is that they're talking about Starfield. I feel like if I was Xbox and Bethesda, I'd avoid talking about Starfield. But, you know, more power to them for talking about it. They didn't address anything. They just kind of, like, talked about how great it is. And it's like, well, based on public consensus, no, not really. And then they pushed Fallout 76, which is, you know, it's Fallout 76. It's the most recent Fallout game in a world where people are suddenly more aware of Fallout, so I get what they're trying to do, trying to filter people into this game.
Yeah.
Not convinced.
Me either.
And then World of Warcraft is getting its 14th expansion.
They're really up to 14, is that right?
Apparently they have like 2 more planned after this. Like, make a new game.
But that game makes the money. And also Microsoft just bought that. I guess that was the other piece. Yes. Microsoft had Blizzard shit on there because they own that now. So they like Warcraft showing up there, Diablo showing up there was weird. Yeah. But yeah, that's the world we live in now. The last thing they showed that I did want to point out was Perfect Dark.
Yeah.
Not so much because, hey, cool, they're actually doing it, but like they announced it quite a while ago, and this is the first time we saw anything of it, really. Yeah. And it looks way more like immersive sim than I would have expected out of this.
Yeah. I don't feel like it has the energy of the original Perfect Dark games. I'll say that much.
No, it did not feel like it did at all.
So, I mean, if they're not trying to pander to the original fans, you know, I get that. I can understand they want to like make a new Perfect Dark for a new era. I just, you know, when you're using the name, you kind of have to be cautious about how you augment that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as long as the gameplay still borrows elements from the original. Listen, I know Perfect Dark is dated, but I also like the Farsight. I also like the laptop machine gun that you can hold down B and then throw it and it becomes a sentry. You know, I like the funny, weird gadgets and like the dry humor, but it doesn't seem like they were really showing any of that in this trailer. So, we'll see.
Yeah.
It was very crouch while running to slide kick kind of game.
Yes, it was.
And they also showed another Fable CG trailer. That sure was another CG trailer. I'd like to see gameplay of this game. They kind of showed gameplay, kind of. I feel like some of those were like pre-rendered animations that would be in the game, but for the most part, it was like a guy sitting in his armchair talking to a camera. And that's fine. It just doesn't feel like there's much game there being shown. And then the other thing that I should probably point out is they showed Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, which is the remake of Snake Eater. It looks like a remake of Snake Eater. I I feel like I could still just play Snake Eater. I don't know the value there.
Fair. The other thing, I think this was at Microsoft. The Dragon Age. I know they changed the subtitle. It's not like, what is it now? It's like Veilguard, I think is what they're calling it now. Is that right?
I don't know. I didn't care about that
Well,
name, if I'm being honest.
that one I think was at Microsoft, and the thing I wanted to say about it was, just as far as like tone and everything, that felt so not Dragon Age from everything I recall about those games and know about those games. Those games always felt like they took themselves very seriously, and this trailer made it feel like, hey, Baldur's Gate 3 really succeeded. We need to try to make a trailer that has an energy that people might get from that.
Hmm.
And it felt
So they're
very discordant from everything I know about Dragon Age.
So they're having their DC against Marvel moment, huh?
I guess so. It was just a weird trailer.
I don't know enough about the tone of Dragon Age to like make a call on that, but I mean, if you say so, Neil, I have no reason not to believe you. But yeah, that's the summation of the Xbox presentation that I can think of. We also had the Ubisoft. I'm still not clear on what that is.
It's only been like a decade of doing podcasts and we still can't get it right.
every year we get to the fucking presentation shit, and I'm like, which is it? I'm guessing Ubisoft, because that's the one I hate. The one I hate saying is usually the right one. Okay, well, they start off with Star Wars Outlaws. I'm sorry, but it feels very by the numbers. Like, it's just an open world game where you have missions.
Yeah.
And it's Star Wars. You know, and again, I can appreciate that they're trying to move away, at least narratively, from like the Jedi are like the center of the galaxy and so important. And I like that they're doing something different. But at the same time, it's just like, well, where's the identity then, right? Because the problem with Star Wars is that because so much content that's been put out for years and years now, and even like recently, is all Jedi shit, right? I mean, we had like the Mandalorian and we had Boba Fett and all like the bounty hunter shit, but it's just, I don't feel like there's enough identity there to really squeeze enough blood from that stone. Otherwise, it's just another open world game that with a lot of budget.
Fair.
I don't know. I didn't feel it. Like, I thought it looked good, but it didn't compel me.
That's fair. Me either.
Okay. Well, I mean, it's open world. I can assume that you're probably not.
Well, I even like Star Wars stuff, but like...
Sure, you liked Fallen Order, right?
Yeah, Fallen Order was pretty good. I never got around to the sequel, Survivor? Jedi Survivor? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I never got around to that one, but maybe someday.
You ever gonna get around to it?
Maybe. Now I have a computer that can probably run it way better, so I'm more excited to try.
Probably gonna be on sale.
One of these days, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
What else was at Ubisoft again? Just dancing shit and
their lovely dancing video game. We had Assassin's Creed Shadows.
Right.
Of course they showed Assassin's Creed. It's Ubisoft.
Yeah.
So there's been a lot of like angst around this game for basically one big reason, and that was the idea of them having like an African American protagonist. And historically speaking, there was a black samurai. You know, he had come from afar, and I don't know the specifics, but he ended up becoming a retainer to a shogun, and he actually like became a pretty affluent figure. So it's not like there wasn't an African samurai, right? I almost said African American. It's not how that works. But there was also some like kind of legitimate things that felt weird to like actually consider. They use like a weird hip hop music for like, there's a hip hop fusion song that plays for him, and it's just like, okay, but also why?
That
was
felt like trailer to me. I feel like the game itself is not going to go that direction.
I hope not. But
me too.
Okay, so
but I guess it is
so
Ubisoft. They could pull a fast one.
So the other thing is, like, he's not the only protagonist. We have kind of like a situation where you kind of flip between two protagonists. It's not a first for the series, so it's not unexpected. I think that the main thing I took away from that showing was that I really hate when characters just kind of say things for the sake of filling silence. I know that, like, it was very hammed up for the presentation here, but, like, there's, like, not a 3-second period where, like, the character is walking where they just stay silent. Like, people don't act like that in real life, and they certainly don't act like that when they're trying to be stealthy. So, that annoyed the hell out of me.
Fair.
What else was there? They did a lot of Prince of Persia, I'll say that much. They showed a lot of love to Prince of Persia because they, like, talked about the Lost Crown expansion, and there's an update to the Rogue, which is, I guess, a rogue-like version of Prince of Persia that I never heard about. I don't know if it's mobile exclusive or if that's some other place that you could do it, but it seems like the gameplay is much more, like, akin to the original series, where it was like a platforming kind of deal. And then they teased the Sands of Time remake, which I know a lot of people love that game. It's certainly in the oven.
It has been for like 5 or 6 years now.
Yeah, I mean, and I'm not. It's not a surprise that they're doing it, but also they didn't really show anything for it. And then the last thing that they kind of ended on was like a trailer for Anno, the strategy series. And the only thing I could think of is like, people play this, huh?
People still play it. They come out with a new Anno like every couple years.
All I know about Anno is that I am given free copies of like older games whenever there's like a dry spot in free game giving. Like I'll get like the Amazon Prime free Anno 2070 whatever. 2077, yeah, Cyberpunk Anno. But I think that was all that I got from the Ubisoft. But we also have the Nintendo Direct.
We do. This one came later than everything else by quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm glad we waited.
And Nintendo was surprising. They had a lot more for this year that they hadn't said anything about than I was expecting.
Yeah, no, I think a lot of people were kind of blindsided by this, because, like, they were, one of the things that I noted was, like, right when they put the presentation on YouTube, like, you know how they set it up, like, oh, it's going to be live then. But if you went to the video before that, you could kind of just see how long until it goes live. But in the description, it said, we will not be talking about the Nintendo Switch successor at this presentation. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to be a pretty empty presentation, isn't it? But it wasn't.
Nope.
Actually, there was actually a lot. And you know, I hate to, like, use the buzzwords here, but I feel like Nintendo kind of won.
The buzzwords, no!
Yeah, sorry. But yeah,
I feel like
Nintendo won
like bees.
I feel like Nintendo won E3 this year.
Oh no. The words, we're not supposed to say those anymore. E3 is dead.
They don't really make sense anymore, do they?
No, the Nintendo showing was a big surprise for quite a few reasons, not the least of which was, like, the first thing they showed. Mario and Luigi Brothership, which
that's a
fucking hell of a word, but okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you know what, I feel like Nintendo kind of, like, forgot what shipping means on the internet, but okay. Yeah, Mario and Luigi, it was very much a series that started on the Game Boy Advance that was about kind of doing what they're doing with Super Mario Wonder now, right? Where there's a lot more personality to the characters and a lot of weirdness. And so, it kind of makes sense that now that they're playing a little more loosely with the franchise, I think that it's made it more fresh, and they should continue to, like, lean into that, because all the new Super Mario Bros. Shit was getting real dry. But yeah, you know, it looks like a Mario and Luigi game.
Yeah,
I don't know what the status of the studio is. Like, I know that didn't the studio who was making those games or at least the remakes of those games, like get shut down?
It did. From what I've figured out, or what people have been hunting around and what I've been hearing a little bit about over the last week or so, is the studio was shut down, and the people behind this is a new studio that does have at least some number of people from that old one in there.
Okay.
I'm not sure how much, but like there is at least a little bit of what's the word I'm looking for here?
Alumni.
Yes. There's some alumni from the original series is coming into this. And did you ever play many of those Superstar Saga and all those ones back in the day?
I did not play any of the DS ones, but I loved the Game Boy Advanced one.
Okay. Because I think I played one of the DS ones, and the thing I remember about those games is they kind of felt like, to me anyway, way back when they did that original Super Mario RPG on the Super Nintendo, it was almost like there was a split, and one of them went Superstar Saga and the Mario and Luigi series, and the other one went Paper Mario. And there's still a lot of crossover in the base mechanics, because they both kind of stemmed from what Super Mario RPG was doing. But boy howdy, I'll tell you, I had way more fun with those Mario and Luigi ones than I ever did with Paper Mario.
Okay, well, let's take a step back here. One of the main criticism of the RPGs coming out of Mario over the past like 5 years, like when you think about like Sticker Star or Origami King or is that like it felt like, and it was basically confirmed by Nintendo, or at least by the director who was in charge of a lot of these things, that they didn't want them making new characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't want them like they wanted the characters in the games to be like generic Toads, essentially. You know, you can have a Ninja because Ninja are a thing, but don't name him or don't change the design too much, because then you're like adding to the Mario Apocrypha or whatever. But it seems like they're kind of like doubling back on that, because if you look at like what's been coming out, you have the Paper Mario Thousand Year Door remake, which is probably one of the zaniest, most new character laden properties that got put out. And, you know, now you're seeing another Mario and Luigi game announced, and I feel like they kind of realized that they were kind of doing the wrong thing. Right?
Yeah.
By stymieing the property and not letting it grow into like new things, they really kind of fucked with it. And then you know, in current era, we're seeing Mario Wonder, we're seeing these new things, we're seeing remakes of the things that people actually liked, and I think that we're going into a pretty good year for Nintendo. I think that I have faith in the direction they're taking creatively. I still have a lot of things to say about the way that they manage their properties outside of that, but fair. That's not what we're here to talk about today.
Not today.
So what else got shown? We got where should we go? Where should we go from here, Neil?
Well, I mean, obviously, we have to go to what they're bringing to the Nintendo online service thing. Mature games.
Yeah, 18 plus.
Fucking Turok, the foggiest game known to man. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's pretty fucking. Yeah. Yeah, I think they kind of front loaded a lot of the more disappointing stuff. Like they started off on a very strong foot.
Yes.
And then they kind of showed a bunch of like kind of stuff, and then they revved up again and they started showing some big deals. You know, no shade given to the Dragon Quest guys, because like that's a pretty big deal. I know Dragon Quest is a beloved property, especially in Japan, and bringing these early games and doing like these HD 2D. I hate saying HD 2D. These HD 2D remakes, you know, it's a good way to introduce a new audience to them, I think. I ain't got the kind of time to be playing 3 new, semi-new RPGs, so that's probably not going to be an experience that I have. They showed Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, which is not exclusive to the Nintendo Switch.
True.
But I know that a lot of people didn't realize this was happening, and there's been kind of a campaign in the fighting game community, a hashtag Free Marvel,
I think that started like years ago too.
Yeah, it's been going on for a while. And so, ain't nobody was expecting this. And so when it did, some very like big figures in the fighting game community were pretty jazzed.
Popping off is the way I would say.
No, they were pretty jazzed. That's the state of the fighting game community now.
The thing for those who don't realize it, one thing you have to kind of understand about those games and why this is such a big deal is Marvel vs. Capcom had deals going on with, at this point, Disney. There's a reason why a lot of these things have been stuck and not being able to really be brought into the modern day.
Yep.
And these are also games that, because of the way a lot of licensing worked, literally were not things you could legally buy unless you're finding used copies of. There's no way to purchase these games until, for a long time now. I think Marvel vs. Capcom 2 probably hasn't been purchasable legally since like probably 2010 or something.
I don't know the last release myself, but I do have it on PlayStation 2, and that's the last time I remember ever seeing it. So
yeah. So this coming out and being part of this this collection is a really big deal, if for no other reason. You can legally purchase this game on a modern system, which is crazy.
On multiple modern systems.
Yeah.
Because again, it's not just for Switch. It was just announced on the Switch presentation. Okay, so we have Donkey Kong Returns HD. That's from the Wii remake. Very cool. Another Super Mario, new Mario Party.
Oh yeah, the Jamboree.
I thought it was cool that there's a stage that's a mall. That's about all I got from that.
You didn't take anything from the play 20-person minigames?
Oh yeah, like the Battle Royale Mario Party deal. Yeah, I mean, it seems cool. I kind of got burned on the first Super Mario Party when it had 4 boards and no updates.
Fair.
Thanks, Nintendo.
Fair.
But I guess they were putting all their efforts into making other Mario parties. I guess. And let's see, what else? We had...
I mean, we just gotta talk about Zelda at this point, right?
Did you just go to Zelda now?
That's the next big thing that I can remember.
I didn't have notes for this because it was all new. Oh, there's a Phantom Brave sequel. Didn't see that coming. It looked like it ran like shit on the Switch. The frame rate looked real garbage. But at the same time, Phantom Brave is like a really like very niche cult hit. So the idea of them putting any money into making another one is wild to me. So thought I'd put that out. Yeah, we're just fucking talking about Zelda, I guess.
They're gonna let you play Zelda.
You're gonna play Zelda. It's Legend of Zelda featuring Zelda from A Legend of Zelda.
It's crazy.
I know, right? They did a little fake out too with the intro. It seemed like Link's coming to fight Ganon, throws off the cape. You know, he vanquishes Ganon, but then like his spear sinks in and makes this weird miasma portal shit that he sinks into, and with his last energy, he shoots an arrow and frees Zelda, and then the camera like moves over to Zelda, and you're like, oh shit, wait, they're not doing it, are they? And they are. So at first I thought this was gonna be like an Oracle of Ages, Oracle of Seasons deal.
Oh sure,
because they were using the same Link's Awakening style for the remake that they did on the Switch.
Yeah, it's like they're gonna remake those ones that no one played. Okay.
I mean, I would be thrilled about that too because I love those games. But this is a new game. Echoes of Wisdom, I believe it's called.
Yes.
And you play as Zelda, and Zelda does not have a sword. She has a little wand, and she copies things. And I have mixed feelings about this. I think that in terms of gameplay, it's going to be very interesting. I think the speedrun's going to be ridiculous.
Oh yeah, if you go through this one room, get this specific chair, then break a wall to get some other singular item, and then suddenly you can just clip into the end boss. Hooray.
Yeah, no, it's definitely the kind of game that when you think about like how it's coded, there's probably going to be a lot of glitches. But yeah, so she just copies objects with her wand, and then she can summon them, and she can seemingly summon an unlimited amount of them, just based on what it was shown. I'm sure that there's going to be some sort of limiting factors, but it's very different. It's a very different Zelda game, and I think this is 100% due in part to Tears of the Kingdom being so successful with the contraptions that people were posting online. Nintendo's like, wow, people really like this. We've got to, like, lean into this creative puzzle solving that people are doing. And they're like, okay, well, then we're going to make this new one, and it's going to be like this. And it makes total sense.
Yeah.
I'm sure that we're going to get a lot of social media posts about people's weird solutions or just weird creations that they make.
Probably.
And I have mixed feelings. Like, when I think of a top-down Zelda game, I do have expectations, and I know that this is not going to be that kind of experience. So, I don't know how I'm going to feel about it when I'm playing it, because I am going to play it. But, I don't know. I think that they're being very experimental with this, and it kind of feels like a disservice to Zelda as a character, that they're finally, like, letting her, like, be at the front, and they're mixing it up so ridiculously, Like, I think that she would be capable of to play at the same level as Link. But again, innovation is going to happen. I appreciate them not just trying to do the same thing with Zelda, but also I think that it would have been cool if Zelda could have maybe just, swung a sword around a little bit and, I don't know, shot a bow and arrow. We know she can shoot a bow and arrow, all right?
For all we know, you're going to copy a sword somewhere and then you do get to swing it around, right?
I mean, it seemed like they were pretty explicit that, like, no, this is going to be different.
Yeah, they were showing that, but like, it's possible that you can copy a weapon, a more standard weapon, and use it like a weapon. It's not impossible to
maybe.
Think. Maybe it only lasts for like a minute or something. Maybe that's the limiting factor. Who knows?
At that point, I think that the whole innovation's kind of out the window because so many people are just going to do that.
I guess that's fair. And then they had one more thing that I feel like I need to get a little hype about.
Yeah, why don't you take this one, Neil?
Everybody.
That's right.
Everybody join hands.
We got Fantasia Neo Dimension. That's right, the fashion game. Neil is a big fashion aficionado.
That's me.
When he saw this game, he lit up like a candle. He's just a glow.
No.
We're talking about Metroid Prime.
Metroid Prime 4. It took 7 years or something since they told us, hey, we're rebooting this. For them to show it. It's happening. I never played Metroid Prime 3 because I never had a Wii. I kind of thought maybe they would put it onto Switch someday.
Nah.
But Metroid Prime 4 looks like it's going to come out sooner, and let's be honest. They did not show a lot. But you know what they did show? They showed a fucking Metroid Prime game.
They showed Daft Punk.
Yeah,
one of the
that's
members
what they did.
The bad guy.
Yes. No, they showed a Metroid Prime game. It was first person until you ball, and then it's third person. It had scanning in it. It looked like there was a lock-on function for shooting your gun. So it looks like a fucking Metroid Prime game.
They went out of their way to show that scan function because they knew people wanted that shit.
They did. They went very explicitly, we're not showing you a lot. We are showing you, if you like Metroid Prime, it is a Metroid Prime game. And that is great. So, thumbs up, Nintendo. Day one buy for me.
Okay, so as little as they showed, there's actually some pretty continuing lore stuff going on there. I guess at the end of Corruption, that dude, the baddie, was part of a problem. I don't know exactly like how far it goes, but also that's Sylux. So Sylux was from Metroid Prime Hunters. He was introduced on the DS game. He is one of the characters you can play as in multiplayer, and not a lot is known about him. Like, even in Metroid Prime Hunters, his race was listed as question mark.
Yeah.
So he's always been a mysterious figure. And the one thing that we do know about him is he hates the Federation. So it makes sense that he'd be attacking a Federation base. Don't know why he got Metroid with him. Don't know why they're just kind of hanging out with him, being like chill, but looks like some interesting stuff's going on. The one thing that I also want to say about like the trailer was that like it does this thing where like the ship comes down, Samus jumps out, this little flippy lands, and it plays the fanfare with the fucking operatic vocals,
Mm-hmm,
and then like the camera pans around, and then you're inside the helmet, right? And like it's all silent.
Yep.
And you take one step, and then there's a fucking explosion. Like there was no build up there at all. It's a fucking like orbital laser blowing up a building. It's like, oh Jesus Christ.
True.
Like I'm glad it waited for me to do my flip.
True. But that's pretty much everything that happened and they showed us over this last month of, hey, video games are coming.
You're wrong.
Am I?
Because there was also the Steam Next Fest.
Okay. So Steam Next Fest is weird because I don't think of that as them showing stuff in the same way. You kind of have to go and look at, hey, what are all the demos you can look at? There's not like a show for it in that same way, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But tell me, what did you play at the Next Fest?
I played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I played more than 10 demos.
Oh, Jesus.
But I ain't gonna talk about all of them.
Okay.
Because that'd be ludicrous. What I will talk about is I played a Ranger, which is it's like a tile-based adventure game that has been shown at several places. It's cool. I can see the speedrun being ridiculous because of the way that things wrap around. If you've eventually it'll get tuned down to like just memorizing a bunch of inputs because that's how that speedrun would go.
Mm-hmm.
I like the art style.
That's the one where
also,
like you're kind of forcing the world to move around you, so to speak.
Right. If you think of it like a kind of like a puzzle game, it's you're sliding rows and columns.
Yeah.
And like your character is being slid around on the map rather than you just walking around. And when you do that, you're also moving all the other objects. So I played that. That was really cool. I played Dungeons and Degenerates Gamblers, which is a coat-tail chasing game for Balatro, basically. It's more based on blackjack, and like it's kind of like this combative blackjack. I'm gonna be honest, it was really poorly balanced, and the descriptions for like how things work is very weird. I would like to see it get tuned and maybe balanced a bit more, and then it would be ready. I don't feel like it's ready right now.
Fair.
Let's see. I played Metal Slug Tactics, the tactical game based on Metal Slug. That game is weird. I don't see, when you think of Metal Slug, you're thinking about a very specific experience, especially if you've played it before. That ain't it. I like the sprite art. I can see they clearly put a lot of effort into it. Just the amount of thought that I have to put into it while I'm looking at Metal Slug sprites kind of is dissonant to me. Like, I just kind of want to run around and shoot shit.
Yeah, I just want the game to scream rocket launcher, and then just make explosions happen.
I want to hear heavy machine gun, and then just have the whole screen light up with, like, sprites and explosions. So that, I think that there's going to be some people who really like that game. Not for me. I played Shim. So Shim is the game where you are playing as like a little frog shadow thing that lives in the shadows of other objects. That is not a game.
Oh?
And it's just so narrative heavy. Like the gameplay is literally just like going from one place to another, and it just didn't feel game to me. It felt like I'm using this interactive medium to tell a story, and that's fine. Not for me. This is what's good about Next Fest, Neil. Like, you can play things and be like, oh, I see what this actually is. Mm-hmm. I played Glyphica, which is Typing of the Dead, but instead it's like a weird asteroid game where you blow up the enemies by typing the name. It's basically that. I feel like I played the demo and I played the real game because it's essentially the same thing. It's good, though. Mm-hmm. So here's the real winners here, okay? I'm going to get into the real big winners for Next Fest, at least in my book.
Okay.
Pinball Spire. Adventure Pinball. I think you'll love this one, Neil.
Yes, that is on my radar. It is on my wish list when it comes out in real life, or rather, at one point...
in real life.
When it comes out in 1.0, look, I'm in a my brain is starting to fizzle. That's what's happening here.
We're
But-
trying to fit a lot into a very small amount
But
of time. I get it.
that is very much on my list of I want this to come out in 1.0, and as someone who really liked the last one of this sort of adventure pinball games in Yoku's Island Express, I very much expect I'm going to like this one a lot, and it is right up there in my list already.
I literally was scrolling down the list of games, and I saw Pinball Spire, and I was like, that's a Neil game, isn't it? And
It
then
sure
I played it. I
is.
was like, this is a Neil game.
Yep,
So
I'm looking
can't wait
forward
to see
to
you
it.
play that. Okay, so the other ones that I think are real winners here, Death Grip. Never heard of this game before, but when I was watching the trailer, I was like, this is fucking Star Wars Pod Racer. And it is Star Wars Pod Racer. It's literally
Okay.
just Pod Racer without the Star Wars stuff. And I forgot that game was so fucking good.
It's a pretty good game.
And it's basically like Twisted Metal plus Pod Racer because you can shoot your enemies, and I like to blow up my enemies when I'm not racing good because
Fair.
it's cathartic for me. Nothing's more cathartic, more soothing to me than blowing up my enemy who I can't pass. But yeah, it has all the hallmarks of Star Wars Pod Racer. It's got the afterburner. It's got repairing your ship while you're driving it. It's got lifting up onto your side. It's got all
yeah.
the Star Wars Pod Racer thing. The levels look good. Speed's good. It's fun. If you like Pod Racer, play Death Grip. In a similar notion, Aero GPX, the F-Zero spiritual successor that has been in development for a while. I remember I first saw this on a Twitter post that someone shared. I was like, oh, this looks fucking cool. That game feels great. The gameplay is so fine-tuned and feels so faithful, and yet it also brings some new things to the table, like the aerial sections, and just it feels good. If you like F-Zero, you should probably play Aero GPX.
Okay.
And then the last one was Riven. I didn't realize they were remaking Riven.
Why is that in a Next Fest? It's okay. That's fine.
Well, here's the thing. I was indoctrinated into PC gaming because of Myst.
Sure.
My dad bought Myst for Windows 95. It was one of the first games on CD-ROM. It became this humongous sensation. Cyan put themselves on the map, and they continue to develop different games for that series. And you have Myst, you have Riven, Myst 3 Exile, Uru. These are all things in the same continuity. And they have novels and shit. Like, they really cared about this story, and a lot of people kind of grew up on it. I didn't. I played the first Myst because my dad played it, and I thought it was so weird that he was taking notes and drawing little pictures to try and solve these things. And so when I finally got around to it, I was like, oh, this is actually really difficult, and I have poo brain and I'm a baby. I don't know how to play these games. I just walk around and click on stuff. And then later on in my life, I finally got around to playing Real Myst, which was the 3D remake where you can roam around without it being static 3D rendered pictures. And I was like, that was actually pretty cool. My brain had developed enough that I was able to actually solve the puzzles, and it was fulfilling, and it was an interesting world, and the lore was cool. And then I tried to play Riven, and Riven never got a remake, at least when I had been trying to play it. I bought this really old legacy version for Steam, and I remember booting it, and it was this little tiny box in the middle of my monitor. I was like, oh shit, I'm gonna have to try and fine tune this. I mean, eventually I got around to it.
Yeah, back when everything was at 400 by 300 resolution.
Yeah, or maybe 600 by 800 if you were lucky. But yeah, so I tried playing it. After playing Real Myst, I was like, this is it feels kind of gross playing this. And also the puzzles were very hard. Way harder than Myst.
Yeah.
And I hear that's a pretty common feeling for people who are trying to progress through this series. But then I saw that they remade Riven, and there's VR for it. And I was like,
VR,
cool,
no.
An excuse to do VR. I haven't had that in a while.
No.
So, the demo didn't have VR integrated into it, but I did play through the demo. And, I was able to figure out a lot more than I did the first time I tried to play Riven. And part of it was just like being a little more intrigued with the environments being more fleshed out and explorable. And I'm going to play this game. I already bought it. I bought it on GOG.com.
Fair.
It's on sale, 10% off. It's like $30.
I was having you talk about how you got introduced into Myst and everything, right? Not wildly dissimilar from myself, but it does have me suddenly going like, as such early formative gaming experiences for us, I guess it makes a lot of sense why, like, The Witness, for example, is a game that both of us ranked really highly.
Yeah, no, we held it with acclaim.
We grew up on, hey, make us learn some weird shit. Make our brains work, and we might be happy.
Drop us in a cool looking place and make us learn how to deal with shit. That's a good game genre for me.
Yeah.
I do like it. But yeah, so I'm gonna be playing Riven. That's on the docket. I'm gonna have a real busy month, Neil. I'm gonna be moving soon, and
True.
I'm gotta buy a car. It's gonna be very expensive.
What? You drive?
I'm gonna have to.
Madness.
It is kind of madness, especially after I talked about playing Death Grip.
Sorry, officer. I was playing a little too much of Death Grip. I didn't mean to punch it to the floor.
ain't no police officer gonna know what the fuck Death Grip is. He might know Call of Duty. That's about it. And FIFA.
Yeah, but if you tell him, sorry, I was playing too much Call of Duty, he's gonna think you have a gun in the car, not that you needed to speed.
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna get shot either way. So
fair. Yeah, that was basically everything. I know we both played some other games, but I feel like we can just save those for next time. It's fine.
Yeah, probably. We could talk a little bit about Knuckles.
The Knuckles TV show. Yeah, we could. You know what? Let me just say, thank you everybody for listening. We will see you again soon, and stay tuned if you want to hear feelings about the Knuckles TV show.
Yeah, check out this pre-recorded end cap by Neil, and then we're going to talk about Knuckles.
I keep meaning to re-record it, but I never do. Audio Games is hosted and produced by Matthew Lane and Neil Jimenez. Our theme music is Recharging by Gooset. If you'd like to reach out to us, please email us at audiogamespodcast@gmail.com. Anyway, I think the Knuckles TV show had a pretty good first episode and a real trash rest of it.
I think the Knuckles TV show had a really good first episode, and then I didn't watch anymore because he told me it was garbage.
It's garbage.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that the setup is real weird.
Yeah.
It's also weird because it seems like it's a relatively high budget, They got a lot of the people from the original movies to like take time off and like make this series.
I'm gonna say
Idris Elba.
I'm gonna say solidly half of the budget of that show is in the first episode.
Oh, was it?
That's my guess.
Well, no wonder I have that impression then.
Yeah, the first episode is like okay, this is kind of fun. It could be doing something silly, and the rest of it is like bad SpongeBob.
Oh no. Idris Elba doing bad SpongeBob?
Yeah, I don't know how else to describe
that on my
it.
Bingo card. Okay, well, the weird thing for me was like this ancestor spirit showing up.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what was that? Like, does that ever get explained?
No, but it does come back.
Okay.
In like a really stupid way.
Well, it sounds like it. All right.
Do you like it when your show has a musicals episode for some reason?
Yeah, a lot of people do, Neil.
Well, this one has one, and that spirit's a part of it.
Well, you know what? Idris Elba's got musical chops because he did Cats, remember? He was in Cats.
I don't.
He does anything, Neil. He'll
No,
do
no.
whatever
I'm trying to
want.
think. That might be the least Idris Elba episode of the series too.
Oh, really?
Is the
Okay,
musical
well,
one? Weirdly enough.
The least Idris Elba.
Yeah, that one might be the one where you like really don't get a lot of Knuckles. You just get a lot of. It's bad. Don't watch it. If you have the chance, everybody, don't bother.
Don't
Coming
watch
from a
Knuckles.
certified Sonic fan, it's not worth it.
Oof.
It's not worth it.